Spoiler alert.
The plot of Scream Queens involves archetypal hero Grace coming to college and wanting to follow in the footsteps of her dead mother she never got to know by joining Kappa Kappa Tau, and she persuades her roommate Zayday to join with her and run for president. Typically they wouldn't get in, but this coincides with the dean forcing Chanel to accept anyone who wants to pledge. Chanel hazes the crap out of them and coerces them into keeping it quiet when Chanel accidentally kills Ms. Bean, when a killer dressed in the Red Devil mascot outfit targets the sorority, picking them off one by one. Grace, Zayday, and Pete hunt for the truth. In the meantime, various power struggles play out on campus. Wes sticks around to keep an eye on his daughter. Gigi becomes attracted to him. When the girls get creeped out by his presence, she distracts him by flirting with him, and they become a couple. They come into conflict with the creepy dean, who wants to sleep with every guy she can and has her sights set on Wes.
Wes and I are kind of an item, and I call dibs.
Though I'm not sure the degree to which the show recognizes it as rape, she explicitly coerces Chad into having sex with her, and she is portrayed as creepy for that and other things that come to light.
She's the devil, that one. The darkness.
After Chanel catches Boone trying to molest Chad, she decides to out him to everyone. Boone tries to save face by asking to pledge Kappa Kappa Tau. Even though he's a boy, Chanel thinks that would be good PR and lets him join, thus making him a viable target for the Red Devil. The Red Devil kills Boone, or so it appears. Boone wakes up in a morgue, having used meditation and theater supplies to fake his death. After that, we see two Red Devils, Boone and some other unknown entity. While the characters are trying to figure out who the Red Devil is, we're trying to figure out who's in the other suit, and if a given Red Devil is Boone or not. This creates an interesting format where we know more than the characters and are waiting for them to catch up, while we're also presented with our own mystery.
Oh my god, there's two of them!
Grace becomes aware of the 1995 incident and assumes that the baby born 20 years prior must be the killer. She at first thinks that it's Chad, but learns that the baby was a girl, so she starts thinking that she could be the baby. Her father told her that her mother died in a fire when she was 3, and all evidence was destroyed, and she starts questioning her father's veracity, placing suspicion on him as the Red Devil.
I am going to find out what's going on.
The baby is linked to a local legend about a hag of Shady Lane, a wailing ghost haunting an abandoned house. Grace and Pete figure out that she was a homeless woman taking care of a baby. Most likely, the baby, which makes it unlikely to be Grace. They trace the hag to a mental institution where a patient paints everyone she sees, and they get her to give them a picture of the hag, Gigi, holding two babies, a boy and a girl. An implication is that both children are Red Devils, presumably Boone and a girl. Grace and Pete track down Mandy, one of the witnesses to the incident, who tells them that both Dean Munch and Ms. Bean found out about the girl's death and helped cover it up. The dean in particular led the girls out to the middle of the woods to bury the body, casting suspicion on her. A Red Devil kills Mandy soon afterwards, ensuring she speaks no more. A Red Devil abducts Zayday in an extended homage to Silence of the Lambs. The Red Devil tries to romance her, but she stabs the Red Devil with a fork and escapes. This Red Devil turns out to be Boone, who has a crush on her even though he's supposed to be gay. The obvious possibility no one brings up is that he's bisexual, but the show frames it as a bizarre contradiction of his established homosexuality. He wanders around campus freely because most people at this school are total morons, and think that he's Joaquin Phoenix, in a totally random homage to I'm Still Here, a movie that has nothing to do with horror.
That disguise was brilliant.
He soon figures out that people who do know him will think he's a ghost, with Chanel No. 3 labeling him Dead Gay Boone.
The ghost of dead gay Boone is walking the earth.
He tries to romance Zayday as Dead Gay Boone, but she and Grace are some of the only people not morons, and they figure out that he's the Red Devil. He escapes, somehow. It really doesn't make sense unless he has powers like Claire from Heroes. Gigi and the Red Devil are seen having a conspiracy. They really don't like Boone doing all this stupid stuff on his own, and they talk about murdering him. Meanwhile, Gigi continues her relationship with Wes. When Grace confronts her about being the hag of Shady Lane, she tries to manipulate Wes into having Grace institutionalized. She also tries to send Grace off in the wrong direction, to instead consider Dean Munch. Grace and Pete learn that Dean Munch's ex-husband, Dr. Munch, cheated on her with a young college student named Feather. Feather moved in with Dr. Munch, and now she thinks that someone might be trying to kill her. There seems to be a murder attempt that matches up with how Dean Munch's former boss died, allowing her to get the job. When Feather returns home to find Dr. Munch's mutilated corpse laid out for her to find, in a rare gender flip of the woman in refrigerator trope, Grace and Pete use their amateur detective skills to determine that she couldn't be the killer because she's allergic to bologna, when the killer ate a bologna sandwich, and the evidence is linked to Feather, who is sent to prison for being the Red Devil. In a private, dean-to-audience narration, we learn that the dean took advantage of the Red Devil killings to kill her husband and frame Feather, and she gets away with it. Completely. At the end of the show, Feather's still rotting in prison and no one cares.
Are you serious?
Gigi wants to kill the dean, so she dresses as Antonin Scalia in a spoof of Point Break and joins the two Red Devils to try to kill the dean. Unexpectedly, the dean is a good fighter and drives them off. Boone becomes mad at Gigi for ruining the Red Devil brand by dressing as Scalia and tries to form a conspiracy with the other Red Devil against her. It becomes a question of which one the other Red Devil will side with. It looks like they agree to join Boone in killing Gigi, but they actually side with Gigi and kill Boone. For real this time.
This is what happens to sneaky backstabbers.
Meanwhile, there's this whole drama with Hester trying to destroy Chanel and steal Chad away.
I want everything Chanel has, and that includes you.
When Zayde tries to usurp Chanel for race politics, Hester plays it up behind the scenes to damage Chanel's political standing. She approaches Chad and tries to seduce him, which works at first, but he eventually decides he prefers Chanel over her and rejects her. Chanel figures out what's going on and tells Hester that she'll never trust her again, and then makes the same mistake of trusting her several times. She's kind of a moron like that.
You dumb girls are so stupid!
The politics in Kappa Kappa Tau gets so tense that the Chanels actually try to kill each other. Hester forms a conspiracy with Chanel number 3 and number 5 to kill Chanel, but they can't come up with any good ideas due to the silliness of their characters. Chanel finds out, but how she finds out is left ambiguous. Either Chanel number 2 comes back as a ghost to warn her, or her subconscious manifests her as a hallucination brought on by medication. Veronica Mars did something very similar with the murdered figure of Lily Kane, to the point that I suspect it's a spoof. Chanel puts them in their place and organizes them to instead expose either Grace or Zayde as the killer. Chanel finds out later that Chanel number 5 conducts her own conspiracy off-screen to try to kill Chanel, but she doesn't care about it, either because she's confident in her ability to control Chanel number 5,
Oh, as if number 5.
or she's just a moron. When once again Hester tries to steal Chanel's power, this time through pretending that she's having Chad's baby, Chanel responds with murderous intent. She lures Hester to the top of the stairs by pretending to apologize, and instead shoves her down the stairs. Hester goes down, and her neck audibly cracks. We now learn that Chanel is a murderer. Her minions are also wannabe murderers. The mystery stops being about which person is a killer, and instead about which of them puts on a Red Devil costume and joins Boone and Gigi.
You cannot just run around murdering people, okay? That just means you're the killer. It makes her a killer, not the killer.
The plot threads come together in a Thanksgiving holiday special, where each of the main characters go home for Thanksgiving or eat at Kappa Kappa Tau. Instead of glorifying Thanksgiving like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or So Weird, it uses the awkward realities of the holiday as a moment of character study.
They rejected the sacred turkey.
The Chanels who go home find that their families are awful people who they hate being around. Chad loves being with his family, but there are also awful people who bring out the worst in him. His brother's even a bigger creep than he is. Chad takes Chanel there to meet his parents, and they treat her so badly that they actually make Chanel sympathetic.
I am a kind and devoted and loving friend to all.
It gets even more awkward when Hester crashes the dinner. Yep, Hester. After Chanel killed her. Chanel is just as shocked.
Damn.
Apparently, Hester's neck brace saved her. I could almost buy that, except that we hear her neck break. That's telling the audience that she's dead. Trying to back out on that is cheating. It's not a twist when you flat out lie to the audience. I can sort of excuse it with Boone where you hear him land but he's gone when they look, because even though it doesn't make sense, it's in the same scene. They don't drag it out across 2 episodes. Oh well, for better or worse, Hester's still alive. She says she's fine with Chanel because the fall fixed her scoliosis somehow, working on the physics of a slapstick routine, and they go back to their old roles. Hester tries to steal Chanel's position as Chad's girlfriend by saying that she's pregnant again, but Chad's mother is really nasty, knows darn well that Hester's lying, and puts her in her place. That place is next to Chanel. The two girls receive abuse from Chad's family fairly equally, and that actually makes Chanel sympathetic to her. When Chad's creepy brother humiliates Hester, Chanel defends her, chews out Chad's family, and then storms out with her. They all convene at Kappa Kappa Tau for dinner. Even though these people are extremely messed up, they have a family together. Family is what you make of it.
Highly dysfunctional family, but still.
And after a round of accusing each other of being the Red Devil, putting all their evidence forward and dismissing each theory, they settle down for a nice turkey dinner and instead find Gigi's head on a platter. Because even though they're a family, they're still in a horror series, and one of them is the Red Devil. Chanel comes to the conclusion that Dean Munch is the Red Devil, and she gathers the sisters together for a conspiracy to kill her. Surprisingly, Grace agrees. She thinks it's highly probable that Munch is the killer, and with the police on her side, vigilante justice is the best way to proceed. Suddenly, all the sisters are together, moving with an organized purpose, blending Grace's driven sense of justice with Chanel's rage and Hester's murder fetish. They work together as a powerful, cohesive unit, and they would be completely successful if not for inane plot contrivances.
The intensity of the experience of being hunted by a psychopath has really bonded them.
The audience is put into an interesting position here, where we know that Dean Munch is a killer, a rapist, and a horrible person in general who helped cover up the 1995 incident, but who is not connected with the Red Devil killings. We know what Grace does not, that the Red Devil group didn't even like her, but also that she is still a killer, and she might act again. To an extent, it makes sense to us that the sisters kill her, even though their justification for doing so is objectively wrong. We have been sucked into the horror genre, and we can appreciate murder as a viable tactic. Grace, Chanel, and Hester are our heroes, such as we have them, and they have bled into each other as three murderesses. Kappa Kappa Tau has ceased to be a volatile group of power-hungry backstabbers, and they are instead powerful individuals with killing inclinations, united for the purpose of killing Dean Munch. It is extremely gratifying, and it makes us fully sympathetic to murderers. Our sense of morality has turned on its head. We are now an audience that cares about villains and wants to see them succeed. The scene where Grace and Chanel try to poison Dean Munch is done very well. Tension is slowly cranked up as they try to lull her into a false sense of security and feed her poisoned apple cider, itself possibly a reference to Snow White. We really get into Grace and Chanel's headspace as they watch her, waiting for the moment where she drinks and when she might die. And then once again, another character death is thrown away as she survives for literally no good reason. They don't even try to say that she built up an immunity to it like iocane powder or something. She just survives for no good reason. And then she survives their second attempt for equally no good reason. They have a discussion about it. Chanel number 5 suggests that she's a werewolf, and Hester suggests that she's like the folkloric Rasputin. And the show just goes with the idea that she is like Rasputin. But to assume that she would be either stretches the logic of the show.
That seems like an insane conclusion to just jump to.
I think the writers wrote themselves into a corner. They refused to commit to the character's death. Again. They did it with Boone, then Hester, now the Dean. Boone hitting the ground and vanishing was pointless. They could have written him escaping normally. Hester's is more egregious, as is part of the main drama of the show. I like Hester, and I'm glad that she's still on the show, but her neck broke. And they should have stuck to that, or never had it happen in the first place. Likewise, the Dean is a fun character, but there's no point in making her Rasputin, especially in a show where the supernatural isn't otherwise an active element. The episode with Chanel number 2's ghost leaves room for mundane explanations. Hester could have been messing with Chanel with the Ouija board, and Chanel could have hallucinated the ghost. And we're supposed to laugh at Chanel number 3 for thinking that Boone is a ghost, or that Chanel number 5 has a vagina dentata. So making the Dean a Rasputin is entirely incongruous.
That is bollocks!
There's a scene later on where Chanel tries to kill her a third time in a way that's supposed to work because it worked on Rasputin, and the Dean catches her alone during setup, the minions failing to show up because of another stupid distraction. This is a fun, intense scene where the Dean figures out what's going on and intimidates Chanel, and I think the only reason for making her a Rasputin is so that this scene could exist. I think the writers came up with 2 good scenes about Chanel trying to kill her, and wanted to work them both in even though they contradict each other. So they came up with that balderdash about her being a Rasputin, so that she would survive the first one in order to make it to the other one. It's stupid and shouldn't be on the show. I can buy Denise acting like a cartoon character when it's just a comedy bit, but it shouldn't enter the main drama of the show. I think Grace and Chanel should have been successful. I think they should have blood on their hands. The sisters would be truly bound together in sisterhood over their shared secret, like Chanel wanted at the beginning. And there could be some actual consequences once the Red Devil strikes again, and it becomes clear that the Dean was not the killer they thought she was. Grace would be conflicted, but have her sisters there to comfort her and seduce her to the dark side. And every time she thinks of herself as superior, Chanel would be there to remind her that she's not. In the end, they're all blood sisters. Instead, the Dean survives for an utterly stupid reason. Grace tells Pete what happened, and he flips out and tells her that she has been corrupted by the toxicity of the Greek system. She realizes that Chanel's way is the bad way and that she needs to distance herself from it, so she tells them to stop the murder attempts. Instead, they kick her out of the sorority and go on trying to kill the Dean themselves. I don't like this at all. She tried to kill the Dean and would have succeeded if not for inane cartoon physics. Like with Chanel killing Hester, she effectively did commit murder. For all intents and purposes, blood is on her hands. And she is no better than Chanel. But she never pays for it. She effectively becomes the good character again, with as little reason for it as the Dean being a Rasputin. But that's the plot we got, and we have to deal with it as it is.
So stupid.
It's interesting to me that Pete calls out Grace on her moral failings. It's a little reminder to the audience that the horror genre reality created by the framing of Kappa Kappa Tau is a false one. And it effectively calls us out for going along with it. Yeah, you started out hating Chanel, and now you're on her side. It applies to both Grace and us. While Grace tries to do the right thing, Chanel leads her minions to try to kill the Dean. When Hester suggests that she's like Rasputin, Chanel moves forward based on that with the intent to drown her, as supposedly was what was necessary to do in Rasputin. But a stupid fight keeps them from joining Chanel in time to attack the Dean. The Dean figures out what's going on and stops making herself vulnerable in front of them. The scene where she intimidates Chanel is excellent, but I just wish we could either have it without the Rasputin contrivance, or just have the original poisoning scene. Angry, Chanel writes a huge rant to chew out her subordinates, which is a parody of the 2013 Delta Gamma sorority email leak. A lot of the phrasing is similar, such as her insistence that her questioning their intelligence is a literal question, but with a heck of a lot more references to murder. It's actually not that bad for her. It really is nothing more than strongly worded for her. She insults them when she's being nice, and now she has a legitimate reason to be pissed. So I honestly don't think it's significantly worse than anything else the sisters have to deal with. However, in a real-world context, it is outrageous. So the Red Devil forwards it to everyone in the school, making the entire school angry at her. Oddly, the fact that she describes trying to kill the Dean doesn't get her in trouble, but being mean does. It's like no one has their priorities straight in this world. Anti-Chanel protesters hold up signs saying, "Crappa crappa cow." I imagine the original Kappa Nu Tau wordplay would have been Crappa Moo Cow, which makes more sense. Cow is kind of a stupid insult to just hang off the end. I could see Crappa Moo Cow being an actual slogan. Chanel can't think of a way to recover, so she tries to kill herself. Instead of being dramatic, it's treated as hijinks, where Chanel's an overly dramatic idiot with a garter snake that she mistakes for an asp because of its sweater. I don't like that condescending framing. Zayday gives her a pep talk. Even though Chanel has been so awful, Zayday recognizes that she's just another flawed human being and wants to be her friend. This friendship is solidified when they work together to apprehend the Red Devil that shows up at their door. Finally, the Red Devil's identity is revealed. Angel from Buffy. No, it's this guy.
Have you seen this guy before?
You've captured their stunt doubles!